Alright, what is going on, guys? It is Monko, and in today's video, we're actually going to be reacting to a video that I saw. It's titled something like, which Black Ops game is the best in the series, or something like that. I forget exactly how it was titled, but I'm going to be reacting to it. There's some points that I would agree with, some points I would disagree with. It's all really kind of an opinionated topic. Everyone has their different preferences for game style, but I'm kind of going to go by the... I don't want to say statistics necessarily, but I'm going to go off what he says. I'm going to put a twist on it. I'm going to react to it. I'm going to say what I think. Maybe some people will agree, maybe some people will disagree. Like I said, most of it is opinionated. You can't really say one thing is better than the other and expect everyone to agree with you. But I'm going to go with the facts that I would think that would statistically make the game better. I'm not talking about my preference for which game I think is better. I'm going to go overall which one is better through all of them, if that makes sense. Hopefully it did. Don't feel like redoing the intro, so yeah, here we go. Let's get started.
Black Ops, the best series in Call of Duty and one of the best trilogies in gaming. Each game is as significant as the next, telling their part of the Black Ops story. Black Ops 4 is also right around the corner, and what better way to prepare for than to tear these games apart? Today, we are going to determine which Black Ops game is superior. You all have a favorite. You're sticking with one game, but unfortunately, 2/3 of you are going to leave this video a little bit upset because there will be only one. Here's how I'm going to be grading it.
Okay, so basically the way he's going to grade it, I'm just cutting it out to make it faster and such. So each game has its 3 modes: campaign, multiplayer, and zombies. He gives each category or game mode a chance to win 10 points, and he kind of rates them on his own by giving the facts about the maps and storyline driving and everything like that. And basically that's the way he grades it. There's a possibility to get a total of 30 points. Each game has the potential to get 10 points. And whichever game with the highest amount of points at the end wins. So let's get into the first category. I'm pretty sure he talks about the campaigns.
I'm not going to sit here and explain the entire campaign to you guys because most of you already know it, and for those of you that don't, you don't want to be sitting here for a half hour bored as hell. And so that being said, let me explain the whole thing to you. It takes place during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union, kicking it off as Mason in the Bay of Pigs invasion in Cuba in a failed attempt to kill Fidel Castro. Castro then captures you, gives you to a man named Dragovich, who then sends you to Vorkuta, which is a Soviet Union labor camp, where you then meet Reznov, who doesn't even actually exist, plot twist. You escape, go to the Pentagon, meet the President John F. Kennedy, and Robert McNamara, the Secretary of Defense, and JFK tells you, hey, go kill that asshole Dragovich, and Mason is on board, so then you go do that. It takes a little while, you get sent off to Vietnam, and a bunch of badass things ensue, while you're also seeing a bunch of weird numbers and sleeper agent stuff, because the Soviet Union tried to turn you into a sleeper agent. Now, I'm pretty confident in saying that this is in the top 3 best campaigns ever, hands down.
Okay, so kind of the way that he's explaining it, he's explaining the storyline and some of the main characters and some of the main things that happen in the campaign. So I'm not going to show that for every single part just because of time's sake. I'm just going to kind of show what he has to say about it. He says that it is one of the top 3 best campaigns out there. I wouldn't say top 3 campaigns ever. I would say maybe top 20. It is definitely one of the best in the Call of Duty franchise, if not the best. I think it's one of the most completed campaigns ever in a Call of Duty game. But as I was saying, I'm not going to show every single detail throughout this video just for time's sake. And yeah, let's go into the some of the points he has to say for each game.
Campaign was nothing short of captivating. I never found a moment in this campaign where I was bored or I thought something was unnecessary. It had it all. It had the Vietnam conflict, like I said, the Cuban Missile Crisis. There were flashbacks to World War II. There was the Pentagon. There were so many different settings. And it never really tried to confuse you with all these elaborate things. It really just presented you with a storyline face value, and you could just contract it right away. The campaign really stood out and was unique because of the era it was in and the ideas it was tackling. So I think that this campaign was honestly a solid 9 out of 10.
Okay, so for this first one, I'm going to agree with him with the campaign. It is a very, very great campaign. You really get immersed into it, and most people would finish it very quickly just because of how fun it was and just because of how great the story was. But like I said, I agree with him on that one, and yeah, let's head over to Black Ops 2.
Black Ops 2 campaign is a direct sequel to the Black Ops 1 campaign, go figure. What's really interesting is that it takes place in 2 different time periods, one in the late 1980s and one in 2025. We see Mason and Hudson return in a mission to rescue Frank Woods from a boat in the middle of some South African river. They are then rescued by Jonas Savimbi, which is a large African man. And then there's this giant douchebag named Raul Menendez, who is the antagonist of the campaign. He has a hatred of the United States because of a lot of things that has gone on in his past, and so he wants to start a Cold War between the US US and China. Fascinating about this campaign is that it is completely non-linear, so the player makes certain decisions which shapes the rest of the story, which ultimately leads to several different endings. I would give this campaign a solid 8 out of 10. It's not as good as Black Ops 1's campaign, in my opinion, but it's just the tiniest step down.
I also agree with this one here. The campaigns are all kind of equal except for Black Ops 3. You'll see. But anyways, the campaigns are all kind of equal. Treyarch usually makes very good campaigns. Black Ops 2 is good in its own way because, you know, it has multiple different endings, different time periods, a lot of new faces, a lot of the same faces. You know, you can't really beat a sequel, or you can't really beat the first game with a sequel. The first game is always going to be the best game. That's kind of like a given thing. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say for Black Ops 2. It's not as good as Black Ops 1, but it's still great. It's a great campaign.
Then there's the Black Ops 3 campaign, which takes place in 2065. Everything is very technologically advanced now, as robots are pretty much running the entire military. Here's the problem. I have not played the entirety of the campaign. I've played about 3/4 of it, give or take, and so I want you to take this opinion with a grain of salt, but from what I have played and what I have seen, I would be lying to you if I said I enjoyed this campaign. I just didn't like it much at all. The plot was very confusing in contrast to the campaigns prior to this, and characters play a huge part in this, because if you have characters, playable or not, that you don't give a shit about or you just don't know the names of, like, it's just really something you're not going to enjoy. A 5 out of 10, and 5 is average. But I'm definitely not alone on this, because this was the least completed campaign in Call of Duty history, and this chart says that. So here are the scores thus far. Black Ops 1 is in the lead. It had the best campaign.
Okay, so there you guys have it. For the campaign, Black Ops 1 is in the lead, which is kind of obvious. Black Ops 1 is the greatest because, you know, it was a first, and just gameplay-wise, it was a lot more fun. Then Black Ops 2, you can't really beat the first game, like I said earlier. Black Ops 2 is a great game, but I agree with him, it's a step down. And as for Black Ops 3, I agree with him as well. I think the rating should have been lower, honestly, because Black Ops 3, I don't... Like he said, it's the least completed campaign. Not a lot of people played it. Some of my friends, we don't even, like, we played the first mission on realistic, and that was it. We stopped playing. It was boring. Like, we could have finished it if we really wanted to, but we didn't. I didn't even finish the campaign on my own. The only reason I ever went into the campaign was to play Dead Ops Arcade 2, because it wasn't, like, you weren't able to go into it from the main menu. You had to go into campaign to get to it. I played a couple of the missions. I played like maybe halfway to three-fourths of the entire campaign, but the only reason I really wanted to play it was to play Dead Ops Arcade. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I'm going to kind of change the editing style. I'm going to let him say all of his points for every single game, just so that I don't have to keep commentating every 10 seconds. So yeah, let's start into multiplayer.
Black Ops 1 multiplayer is fairly slow paced, and what I mean by that is before this game released, trick shots and, you know, quick scoping was at its peak, and Treyarch just wanted to put an end to it. Now, I wasn't doing any of that stuff because I am a heterosexual, but it still sort of affected me because the snipers still sucked ass and made them almost unusable. They were still manageable, but they just felt very slow, and that had an effect on the rest of the pace of the game. There's not much to say about the weapons. Some of them were pretty good, some of them were pretty bad, and some of the good ones were the FAMAS, the Galil, the Commando, and this game had some of the best kill streaks in any Call of Duty game ever. You could earn COD points. No, not those shitty ones in Black Ops 3. I'm talking about the OG free ones that you got in-game, and you could purchase some good old-fashioned attachments and guns and perks and stuff with that. And a really fun twist on that were the wager matches. If you wanted to, you could wage some money and see if you could win some more. This game produced some of the all-time classic multiplayer maps, such as Firing Range, Jungle, Summit, and Nuketown. Nuketown is probably in everyone's top 3 favorite map. It got remade 3 times. That's how fucking good this was. The campaign had many good settings, and the multiplayer maps followed. A lot of the maps are in Cuba, a lot of them are in Vietnam and Russia and Germany and like all these places, and they're really fucking cool. This multiplayer was very, very good. I don't know if it would make a top 3 of all time, but it is super, super good. I would give it a solid ass 8 out of 10. Black Ops 2 multiplayer was certainly more fast-paced than Black Ops 1. It sort of returned back to that element. The snipers in this game were certainly better, and at one point before it got patched, the DSR was a godly weapon. Like, if you you had this thing and you were good with it. Oh, there were also some other pretty good weapons such as the AN-94, the PDW, and so on and so forth. I would say collectively this game had better guns than Black Ops 1, but not by much at all. You want to talk about classic maps? Well, try out Hijacked, or Raid, or Slums, or any of the others. I don't think this game has any replayability problems, same thing as Black Ops 1. I feel like if you strive to get whatever fucking camos you want, or whatever you want, like, it'll take some time and you'll enjoy it. It also carried on some unique party games such as, you know, Sticks and Stones, gun game. Kill streaks in this game weren't terrible. This multiplayer is very similar to BO1 multiplayer, no surprise there, and so I'm gonna give it a solid 8 out of 10. Black Ops 3 multiplayer is certainly different than the other two. It has advanced movement and a bunch of futuristic guns and maps. Now, personally, the wall running and the sliding didn't bother me much in this multiplayer because I still had a really fun time with it, but I do realize a lot of people out there do not like that, so I will bear that in mind. One thing I noticed about this multiplayer is that everything is average. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it seems as though there aren't any overpowered guns besides the Brecci, and if you use this gun unironically in multiplayer, I hope you get hit by a train. Every gun you use has the chance to make you play well, which on paper sounds pretty good, but in all reality, it takes away a lot of the competitiveness because everything you use just, you know, it doesn't matter really. I find that the majority of the maps are good, not great. Like, you know how in Black Ops 1 and 2, there were just, you know, some pretty shitty ones, some okay ones, and then there were the bangers? Well, in this game, they're all just sort of in the good category, and some of them suck. I would say my favorite in this game is Combine. It was one of the first maps that people got to play in the beta, so it's one of the more classic ones. But even so, there's no punch to that name. It's sort of just like a pretty good map. It's not like a Nuketown. It's very fast-paced, which is really good for some people and really bad for others. The specialists were very controversial. Some people didn't mind them, like me, and a lot of people really didn't like them. And you know what? I'm kind of on a toss-up there too. One thing this multiplayer has above the others is the replayability. There's a Dark Matter camo that you can go for with all of your guns. It takes a lot of time, and also there's a Prestige Master where you can get to Prestige Master level 1000, which takes fucking forever. Plus, they're constantly adding new DLC weapons, so you always want to grind for those crypto keys to get those. And that's a perfect segue into my last point, which is going to tear this down just a little bit more, and that is the black market. And this is something I cannot ignore when I'm judging this. There are almost as many DLC weapons as there are regular weapons in the black market, which is something that is sort of pay to win, and we all know the black market scandal. It's in the past now, but the amount of money you have to spend in this game to have a better experience is simply disgusting. But I'm gonna give this multiplayer a 7 out of 10. It really isn't amazing, but it's actually pretty fucking good, so I'm not gonna tear it all the way down what it could be like a 5 for some people. I would give it a 7. These are the scores so far, and now we're gonna head into the final category, which is the Zombies game mode.
Alright, so I do agree with him with the Black Ops 1. Black Ops 1 is a very solid multiplayer. It's probably one of the ones that I've spent some of the most time in. I did hit max prestige on 2 different accounts because I was a nerd who played the game every single day in my life. I had a few of the weapons golden, and the COD point system in that game was so good. Whenever I heard COD points were going to come in Black Ops 3 before the game released, I thought that's what it was, and I didn't think it was going to be the COD points to buy supply drops and stuff like that. But anyways, like I was saying, the multiplayer was really fun. The COD point system was great to buy weapons, camos, uniforms for your soldier. That is a pretty big one too. You could customize your soldier a lot more, like with face paint, and there was reticles that you could buy, like reticle sights. And those are probably the best ones out of all of the Call of Duty games, like the best reticle sights. A lot of the weapons, you know, there's like every Call of Duty has its OP, like, you know, assault rifles, some machine guns, stuff like that. It kind of had that in a way. A lot of the weapons were balanced in the sense that, like, you could kind of use any weapon you wanted and still do somewhat decent with it. There was some weapons that were just absolute trash, you couldn't really use them, but most of them were balanced. It didn't really matter what you used. And the only downfall, well, not even really a downfall, but there wasn't any challenges to complete camos. You just bought them with the COD points, and it kind of took a while to grind for them. And then in the wager matches, you could wager your COD points. You would lose a lot, or you could win a lot. And I think that was really great. I was kind of hoping they would do that with Black Ops 3, when you could wager crypto keys, but not talk about that yet. Black Ops 2. Black Ops 2 was great. Had great weapons, had fast-paced games, and it was probably one of the most fun whenever it comes to playing the multiplayer. I've had a lot of good times on it. I'm sure a lot of other people did too. I also went hard at that game as well. I don't know how much time I have on it, like that and Black Ops 1, because it was back on PS3 when I played them, and I'm on PS4 now playing Black Ops 3. Soon to be Black Ops 4, obviously, but anyways, Black Ops 2 was a great game. I invested quite a bit of time into it. I played zombies more than I did multiplayer, but Black Ops 2 was pretty fun, although I think, if I remember correctly, a lot of the DLC maps were kind of like ripped off in a sense from Black Ops 1. Like, I'm pretty sure they remade Summit, um, they remade Nuketown, obviously, they remade Firing Range, they remade, I forget what all they remade, but I know they remade a couple of maps for the DLC games, which is cool, you know, nostalgia. It's nice to play on the same maps again, not in a different game, like reimagine and everything like that. But yeah, that's all I have to say for the multiplayer for Black Ops 2. Then Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 was great. It introduced supply drops. I'm okay with supply drops. Now, hear me out. A lot of people don't like supply drops because they think it's pay to win. But the thing is that, well, I guess it is in some senses. If you couldn't buy supply drops, it would be a much better system, because supply drops make the game more fun. Supply drops make the game worth playing, because some people, they get the max prestige and you don't have anything to do, you know? There's not much to do after you hit max prestige, but with supply drops, there's still that grind, there's still gaining weapons and camos, etc. You're never running out of items to achieve, and with the supply drops, you can get DLC weapons, obviously, like with the likes of the PPSH, the Galil is in there, I'm pretty sure the RPK, the M14 just released. I have pretty bad luck. I only have like 3 DLC like ranged weapons, then I have like almost all the melee weapons, and then that's basically it for that. I had my most time played on that game. I think I have something like 30 days on multiplayer itself, and then like another 30 days on zombies. But that's all I have to say for the multiplayer. Personally, I feel like Black Ops 3 multiplayer is the best, because it has a lot of replay value, and a lot of people just shit on it because the exo movements, and it really bothers me when people just call the game trash before they even try playing it. I see a lot of people that are like that just because it's not an old style boots on the ground. I hate the Call of Duty community because they always say they want new things, and then they get the new things and they want it to go back, and they just keep complaining and complaining. You can't please them at all. This kind of turned into a rant. I apologize for that, but anyways, let's head over to zombies.
Best place to start off is maps, and Black Ops 1 has a good variety of them. There are some difficult ones like Shangri-La and 5, and then there are some pretty easy ones like Kino der Toten and Ascension. Like I said earlier, the gun variety in this game is very poor. There are a lot of bad weapons. When you spin the box 9 times out of 10, you're gonna get something that you don't want, like maybe a China Lake or a Spectre. But the good thing is there are a lot of good wonder weapons, such as the Thunder Gun, the Wonder Waff. There's also the Baby Maker. They're the Wave Guns. They're also very unique. I mean, you have an explosive sniper rifle as one of them, you know, the Scavenger. There's also the VR-11, which turns zombies into people. I mean, there are just so many different ways to kill them in this game. There are so many innovations in this game that in almost every map there was a new wonder weapon introduced. There were a lot of different perks introduced, a lot of traps, a lot of characters, a lot of everything, really. One thing I really appreciate in this game is the difficulty. You never see a bad player get to round 30 on Shangri-La or Call of the Dead. You just don't ever see that. And you don't even see bad players get past round 20 typically, because most of the guns are pretty useless after round 25. The wonder weapons drop off eventually, unless it's the Thunder Gun or the Wave Guns, in which case you don't even get max ammos with. There are lots of checks and balances that make sure, hey, it's not too difficult, but don't worry, it's not going to be that easy either, dude. Like I said about multiplayer, this engine just tends to feel a little bit clunkier and slower, which is one of the only complaints I even have about this game. I cannot even rank all of these maps because I couldn't even decide which would be the worst. Could it be 5? Maybe Shangri-La? I don't know, but they're all so perfect to me. But back to the difficulty part, it's really hard to get to a high round, but it's not hard to do simple things like pack-a-punching or finding the box or getting perks. All of that is very simple and very noob friendly, which is a perfect balance in my opinion. So BO1 Zombies, although you have several flaws, those flaws are for the most part pretty manageable, and I would give you an 8 out of 10 easily. It totally slipped my mind that when you bought the Resurrection Pack, you got the 4 World at War maps too, remastered. I mean, that's also a bonus. So here's the tricky part with Black Ops 2 maps. You have some of the best in zombies. Mob of the Dead, Origins, Buried is pretty good, and then you have literally the worst map ever, Transit. Die Rise is pretty shitty. Nuketown is fun, but really pointless. So when you have some of the worst and the best, they kind of mix together, they compensate for each other, and you got an average map selection. With Black Ops 2 being a sequel, it would naturally become more complex with different buildables. There were tons of different wonder weapons and quests you had to do to get them. There were a few new perks, and there were new characters. This newer, complex zombies would turn away a lot of casual fans that really just enjoy getting to round 15 on Kino. That's not really a strong argument, but it does say a lot about the natural progression of the difficulty. difficulty. It became more difficult to do simple things like getting a weapon or getting a perk or something like that, but it also became a lot easier to get to higher rounds once you got those things, which is the exact opposite of the easy setup and hard to get to a high round on BO1. Just like in the multiplayer, there is a better gun variety overall. There are many good weapons and, you know, a few really shitty ones like the SMR and the War Machine, but those are far and a few. Just like in BO1, there were some really good wonder weapons like the Stavs and the Blundergat, but then there was the Jet Gun, which is probably the worst in all of zombies. The best way to sum up BO2 zombies is best and worst. There are really some of the best things in zombies and some of the worst combined, and it really just comes out to be very similar to Black Ops 1 in the end, which is why I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And that brings us to Black Ops 3 Zombies, which, like the multiplayer, has many vast differences than the other two games. The zombies in this game is so storyline driven and so complex to the point where all the 2010 casual fans are practically gone. All the people that still play are newer, younger, and at least enjoy some degree of the storyline. In order to get the specialist or the wonder weapons or, you know, the majority of things, really, you have to go through these long processes, which doesn't bother everybody, but certainly has its drawbacks. Typically, in the other two games, you would just spin a box to get a wonder weapon or go through a fairly easy buildable process, but now you have to literally complete multiple steps. For instance, setting up on Zetsubo no Shima is completing half of the Easter egg. That's how integrated it is with the storyline. Speaking of Zetsubo no Shima, that seems to be the one map that people have a problem with. Revelations is a little bit easy, but otherwise, the other four are in my top 10 favorite of all time. The maps may be complex and a little bit difficult for some people, but they are beautifully designed. They're so good to look at aesthetically, and even though I don't like Zetsubo, it is a really well-designed map. The wonder weapon selection is much better in this game. You have stuff like the Apothecon Servant, you have the 4 bows from Der Eisendrache, you also have, even the KT-4 is probably the worst, but it's probably better than half of the ones in BO2 or BO1. One major problem was the lack of innovation in this game simply because of one thing, and that's Gobblegum. Gobblegum is the microtransaction, of course, from Dr. Monty's factory. You get liquid divinium to get them, and similarly to the black market, it is a pay-to-play better system. The ability to obtain all of the perks in the map within one click of a button just really takes away a lot of the motivation to play it, and having something that makes you literally indestructible for 4 rounds straight is obviously just not a great idea. And so not only did it make the game too easy, but it took away the possibility of getting a real perk, such as a Widow's Wine. That was the only thing we got in BO3 that was even remotely interesting. It's also important to note that the zombies are much faster and stronger in this game than they were in the previous 2 games, but you do get 3 hits in this game, which is helpful, and also you get a shield. Double Pack-a-Punch is something that is pretty fun to use, but also breaks the game, because it takes away the value of any box weapon ever, because you can go to the wall, spend 500 on an RK5, upgrade it, get Blast Furnace on it, and that allows you to get to an infinite number of rounds. Also, Gobblegum and the wonder weapons make spinning the box in this game pretty much pointless, so in case you haven't caught on, this is what I'm trying to say. It is far too easy. All you have to do is have a double Pack-a-Punched weapon and jug, and really you can get to an infinite number of rounds. But don't forget, there was that DLC 5, that Zombies Chronicles, where we got 8 remastered maps from BO1 and BO2, so we have 14 different maps in this game. In case you thought it was too easy, well, at least you can have an easy time on 14 fucking maps, which in my opinion compensates for so much of the shit I just talked about. You essentially have the entire zombie storyline in one game, except for a few maps, which are mostly irrelevant, except for a few segments of them. And so even though I pointed out more flaws than I did good things about BO3, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 because of Zombies Chronicles primarily, but it just feels like a really complete and clean game, except for when a few of the maps launched. Oh fuck, that was a disaster, but you get what I'm trying to say. Black Ops 3 is a really good, solid overall game.
So, I apologize for making you guys watch these giant segments. It's just, it helps me fit more information into it so I can react to it more. But anyways, going into Black Ops 1, I don't think I would rate it an 8, maybe a 7. Okay, maybe I could do an 8. 7 or 8 out of 10. I think that would be great for a rating. Black Ops 1, it had some great wonder weapons, and then it had some great maps. You know, it has 2 of my favorite maps. It has it has Call of the Dead and Ascension. You can see me playing Ascension on Black Ops 3 right now because of Zombie Chronicles. But anyways, there's Call of the Dead, there's Ascension. This is where the Thunder Gun was introduced, the Wave Gun was introduced. The Gersh devices were introduced. Those were pretty cool, and there's just like another way of monkey bombs and stuff like that. This is when Easter eggs were really starting to kick it off. Call of the Dead, and like Call of the Dead, Shangri-La, Moon. That's where Easter eggs were really kicking off. That's where Easter eggs really began, and that's whenever this storyline was really being put together. Whenever the storyline was really getting big, people started caring about it, and all kinds of stuff. So as the storyline goes, Black Ops 1 isn't really in there. I mean, it kind of is. It kind of starts it off in a way, but at the same time, it's not really in there. And the thing is, with Black Ops 1, it set up the monstrosity, or how do you say that word? Monstrosity. I don't fucking know, but anyways, however you pronounce that word, it leads us into Black Ops 2. And the thing is, after Moon, the storyline leads us into Black Ops 2, and that gives us Transit. Black Ops 2 has some of the greatest maps in the Zombies trilogy, and it also has some of the worst. It has the best, like Mob of the Dead and Origins, but then it has the worst, like Dire Rise, Transit. Buried was okay, Nuketown was kind of pointless, as he said in his parts. But yeah, it had Mob of the Dead and Origins, which really saved it. If Mob of the Dead and Origins weren't in the game, then it would have been dead. It would have been probably the worst for zombies, but Jason Blundell, my mans, came in and saved the game. If it wasn't for him, Black Ops 2 would be a shit show, no one would like it, no one would play it. Black Ops 2 also introduced buildables like the Trample Steam, Turbine, etc., which kind of led into Black Ops 3 with their buildables. Black Ops 2 is really what started more of the storyline, but no one really cared about it because it was the Victus crew. If you don't know what the Victus crew is, it is the Transit crew with Marlton, Stuhlinger, Russman, and Misty, and yeah, no one really cared about it. We only really cared about the original crew with, like, you know, Dempsey, Richtofen, etc. Although Mob of the Dead and Origins were great, it didn't save the game completely. The game is still kind of trash when it comes to zombies, but, you know, just exclude those maps. Take those maps out, they're their own thing. Don't put them with Black Ops 2, they don't deserve that. But, you know, I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. And then into Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 Zombies, as he said in his, it's really easy. You can see me on round 109 right now using a Shiva with Dead Wire, using the worst weapon and then putting Dead Wire on it. Yes, that can get you to high rounds, but you still have to be pretty good at zombies in order to do this. I have some friends, they could do the same thing I'm doing, but they just don't know how to do it. You have to have a really, I don't know, you need to have the skill to be able to sit there for like hours on end, just being able to play zombies. I guess it's not really like a skill, but then again, you have to have the skill to train zombies in small spaces and kind of, like, I don't know, just survive in general and have good strategies and just stuff like that. Yeah, and going on, it also introduced weapon kits. Weapon kits are where you can put attachments on your weapon, put camos on your weapon. That's the first time we've ever seen that. And then going on, we have Gobblegums with Liquid Divinium. You earn a Liquid Divinium through buying stuff in a zombies game. I forget how much you can get in a game. I think it's like 9, unless they up the cap to you can get like an infinite amount, depending on how long you play. But you can spend those Liquid Diviniums to get Gobblegums. And as he said, there's some OP Gobblegums that can give you, like, your Perkaholic, to give you all the perks in the map just by the click of a button. But the thing is that you can customize your loadout. You don't have to use those Gobblegums. You can use the shittiest Gobblegums in the world. You could use standard ones instead of rare ones. Like, you could use Alchemical Antithesis. You could use a Gobblegum that gives you a longer bleed out time. It doesn't matter. You don't have to use Gobblegums at all. You could just play it normally. Like, there's the choice in there. You don't have to use those overpowered Gobblegums. And really, that's all there really is to it for Black Ops 3. Black Ops 3 also had some of the greatest maps. It had the likes of Shadows of Evil, Dryzendrock, Gerard Krovy. It had Zetsubo, Zetsubo's okay. Then it had Revelations, and then it had Zombies Chronicles. Even without Zombies Chronicles, I would still rate Black Ops 3 at a 9 out of 10. But Zombies Chronicles, I would bump that up to a 10 out of 10. It gives you another, I think, 8 maps, which brings it up to 14 maps. So, you know, it's a lot. It's a great game. Okay, it's a great game for zombies. It's my favorite. I have a lot of time spent into it. I'm over level 500. I have friends that are over level 900 just because they can play zombies all day because of how fun it is. And personally, Black Ops 3, my favorite Black Ops out of the series for zombies, and then for campaign and multiplayer, be Black Ops 1. I don't really have any Black Ops 2 stuff to talk about. Black Ops 2 isn't my favorite out of them all. Like I said, it's opinionated. People have their different opinions, but I was kind of like stating the factual parts of things, I think, more than there was opinion. But, you know, there's a lot of different, like, fans for each game. They're obviously going to stick with their game, but, you know, that's really all I gotta say. So, if you guys did enjoy the video, subscribe, leave a like, and if you want, stay here, and maybe I'll see you in my next video. If you guys enjoyed, hit the like button, subscribe, like I said already. And yeah, if you want more videos like this, leave a comment down below. Tell me what your favorite Black Ops game is and why, if you want. And yeah, It's been Monko. Peace out.